Welcome back to the What Worked for Me podcast, everybody. We are here today with Beth, who has successfully been able to lose 150 pounds, which is an astonishing amount of weight. Beth, is there anything else you'd like to introduce yourself with?
Not really, just Beth.
All right, perfect. So, before we get into the weight loss, I always like to start at the very beginning. So, what was the biggest that you got to before you lost the weight, and how did you get there?
So my heaviest weight, I was 333 pounds. And I had been big my entire life. But what really sparked it is I lost my mom about 8 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And well, thank you. During that time, I mean, when you're depressed and going through stuff and being a bigger girl, my coping mechanism was food. And after losing her, I mean, if it wasn't nailed down, it got ate. And then it just got to the point where I was doing something online and I went to go register to be an organ donor. And I entered my weight and they denied me because I was so big.
Oh,
So that kind of opened my eyes up that I needed to get my act together. Because if somebody that I loved needed help and I couldn't help them, that would have devastated me. So, yeah, got my act together. I don't want to say my mom passing was a blessing in disguise, but she died of complications, and her weight had paid, a little bit, went along with how she had passed, and I didn't want to go down that route. So it was eye opening, but yeah.
that's hard. I'm sorry you had to go through that. So, you kind of get through the loss of your mother, and then you realize, okay, I'm not even healthy enough to help someone else type situation. So that was your moment of like, okay, I know something needs to change. What was it that you decided on to do?
Well, I had tried, I'm 40 years old. At this time I was 36, I think, whenever I was had started my getting healthy adventure. Um, but I had tried every diet imaginable. I mean, at one point I was eating like 800 calories a day, basically starving myself. Like my relationship with food has never been healthy. And it's just been one of those things that I needed help. And when you need help, you go to the doctor. So I had reached out to a couple gastric sleeve surgeons, and that was the route I decided to take, which was on me. And I believe everybody has the right to do what they feel is best for their bodies and to get them to where they need to be in their life. And that was the route that I took. So about 4 years ago, it'll be 4 years in about a week. I went in and had my gastric sleeve surgery, and I wouldn't have changed anything about it. It's just opened so many doors for me and allowed me to finally live. Like when you're as big as what I was, you don't live. You just, go to bed and wake up the next day just to go to bed that night and wake up the next day. It's a horrible cycle. But now that I've lost the weight and I finally realize what it feels to live, like I hit the ground running every morning and it's absolutely amazing.
That's awesome. So you brought up weight loss. How much did you lose once you got the gastric sleeve?
Um, that first 6 months I lost quite a bit. I think I lost about 75 in the first 6 months. And then by the time that my year follow-up came up, I lost probably about 125. But if you go by my BMI, I'm still overweight and I still have quite a bit of weight to lose. I think my BMI is like 120 is what I need to be, and I'll never be that. Right now, I'm sitting at about 180, but I am healthy. I feel good. My mental health is the best that it's ever been. So I think so many people just get fixated on what that scale says, and the number does not define you at all. Um, but yeah, I'm sitting at 180 and I'm rocking it. I'm
Awesome.
good here.
I really like what you said right there. So a lot of times we know, having too much weight can be an issue, but you don't want to hyper focus on like a number. How have you been able to combat that? Were you able to find a healthy balance between kind of those two vices?
So, as you know, when you're bigger, your weight Let's be honest, it defines you. Like when people are trying to describe you to somebody, you're always the big girl with the brown hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and it's devastating. It just kills you, you know? But I have actually found like through losing my weight and that I love triathlons. That's my thing. I've never swam before in my life. I hired a coach about 2 years ago. So I've done triathlons of all different distances. I did my first one 40.6 this year. So I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations.
Um, thank you, thank you. I never thought I would be this person. Like you go from just sitting there all day to like pushing your body and finding out exactly what it can do. It's just amazing. It's just really neat. I'm super thankful that I've been on this adventure and this journey and finally living, you know.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you just found another set of goals to replace the kind of the losing weight goal of the scale. You brought up triathlon, so this is one of the first things I always like to talk about is how did your exercise and stuff train change during this period? So starting from when you were 330 to now, what changed with exercise and how much? Yeah,
So I'm glad you asked this because I always tell a lot of people this. So when I first started, at my heaviest at 330 pounds, I would walk only at night and I would walk at the hospital parking lot and I would just do laps around there. Because I didn't want anybody to see me. Because if I failed again, I didn't want people to be able to rub that in my face. So I did it all in the dark around the hospital parking lot, just in case something went south. You know, I was right there. And my first mile, I was so proud of it. I walked, and it took me 28 minutes to walk that first mile. And then, sorry, um, and I was just so proud of that. And I decided, you know, if I can do a mile, why can't I do two? Why can't I do three? So then I incorporated, you know, doing the 5Ks and 10Ks. And then a friend challenged me to do this triathlon thing. And keep in mind, I never swam. I didn't even have a bike. So it's been a huge learning process. But I've done ultra marathons. I've done marathons. Like anything that challenges me, I will gladly do it. I'm doing my first 24-hour backyard ultra next month. But I don't think anything that I will do will ever give me the sense of accomplishment is that first mile that I walked in the parking lot that took me the whole 28 minutes to do. Um, it's just been, you don't realize how much you appreciate your body until you reflect back on those beginning days. And it was hard. Like the first bike ride I did was 6 miles and it took me an hour. And I sat there and I cried the entire time. Like it was horrible because at the time I was still, you know, 250, 260, and it was miserable. But I didn't want to let myself down because that's all I've been doing my whole life is, you know, I get frustrated because I physically can't do it. So I gave up. This is the one thing that I've stuck with. And it's been a blessing. It really has.
that's amazing. How did you learn to push through those mental barriers, like, and not give up on yourself? What was the changes that happened there?
My motto is how badly do you want it? So anytime I'm, you know, regretting my decision, you know, halfway through my marathon, how badly do you want it? Do you want to go back to that 330 pounds? How badly do you want it? And that always seems to get me through it. And again, like thinking if anybody needed help, like we have a nonprofit here in Murray, and we're always doing with our community, giving back and doing what we can to help improve everybody's life. And being an organ donor to me is a big thing. Like I said, just in case somebody that I love needs help, I want to be that person that can help them. So if it means me waking up butt crack of dawn, getting out there and doing my 20 miles, I'm going to do it. If it means going swimming in the nasty lake, guess what? I'm going to do it. I just, by not letting myself down, I know I'm not letting other people down. So it's been a fun adventure.
That's amazing. So, along with the training, a lot of times there's changes in nutrition. How did nutrition change since the sleeve and when you started losing weight?
So um, I would eat anything and everything before. But once you have that surgery, I mean, your stomach's just, itty bitty. So I actually hooked up with a triathlon coach, and he had never done a bariatric patient before. So it's been a lot of learning on his end and my end. Just because in the endurance races, you have to fuel during them. Well,
Right.
the rule of the gastric sleeve is, you can't eat or you can't drink anything 30 minutes before you eat and 30 minutes after. So having to like kind of navigate that system of when you need to fuel and hydrate and all that stuff was a little bit challenging. Um, but I think I have it down to fine art now. So I'm super thankful for that. But I always give my gastric sleeve surgeon, I think I give him a couple extra gray hairs every time I talk to him. Just because, in the weight world, if you say carb, oh my God, heaven forbid. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm always telling him carb loading and eating all the carbs I can. And I mean, he was like, no, no. I was like, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, I don't think
It's,
there's one right way to do what works for your body, and if you're doing that much training, you're going to need an energy source that's really.
yeah. Yeah, he just shakes his head and goes about it like, yeah, okay, we got it down, friend, we got it down. Um, the difference is like before, I didn't understand the whole macro thing and understand what my body needs to function to do these races and such that I'm doing. So figuring out my proteins, my carbs, my fats, and coming up with a game plan each day of what I need. If I'm doing 20 miles, obviously I'm going to have to need more than on a rest day or something like that. So it's been, I'm all about challenges. So I've tried to take what I'm eating and that relationship with food and turning it into a challenge to see, if I can stay between or get the macros that I need for that day. And turning it into kind of like a little game has really helped me. Just keep mindful of what I'm fueling my body with.
Makes sense. Something else that I want to touch on, you had talked about how food was your coping mechanism beforehand, and so when you get a gastric sleeve, all of a sudden you can't eat that same way. How was the adjustment
Mhm.
psychologically to just having that coping mechanism taken away from you immediately?
It's pretty horrible. It's pretty horrible. So when you have the gastric sleeve, afterwards you're on a liquid diet for I think it's 7 days where you can only, do the liquid thing. And then you graduate and you can have like mashed potatoes and soft food, things that won't hurt, what they did to your stomach. And then eventually you go back to where you can eat normal food. And I'm not gonna lie, whenever I was released to eat normal food, I went to my local Mexican thing that I go to and I got what I always got, and I knew better. That's the thing. I knew better. And I sat there and I proceeded to eat like I did before, and I got sick. So that was a rude awakening, knowing, that things are really, really going to have to change. But I'm glad it happened, the very first time because that kept me on track. But it's been a hard adjustment just because you spend your whole life like one way and then all of a sudden you can't do it like that. And I think it was a little bit of a struggle with my husband too. Um, just because if you think about food, you go out and eat to celebrate. You go out to eat when you're sad. Everything revolves around food. And it was to the point like I didn't want to go out and eat. Um, just because when you only eat 3 and 4 bites, you're wasting everything. So more functional than, stay home and do it that way. So it was kind of sad that I saw a lot of my friends and the social aspect of it kind of dwindle down a little bit. But I'm at the mindset I need to do what's best for me. And if that means, not going out and being a social is what we were, then that's something that I was willing to do.
How did so you said that it changed a lot of the social dynamics. How did you navigate that? Because I know outside pressures can be very hard when you're trying to be healthy, and sometimes people can be pretty
Yeah.
negative. So how did you handle kind of that negative feedback you were getting?
So before, like I said, everything that we did when we went out, we usually went out to friends to eat. So instead of going out to eat, I'd be like, hey, why don't we go out on a hike or why don't we go out and kayak? Trying to turn something that I knew would be a trigger for me into something that would benefit not only myself, but my friends as well. So taking that mindset of I still want to be social with them, but maybe just in a different aspect. And a lot of friends have actually like gotten on board and are a little bit more active now. So it's good to see that, they saw my commitment to getting healthy and have actually encouraged me and, gotten on their own getting healthy adventure.
That's great. Isn't it? It's always awesome to be someone else's catalyst and the thing that gets them moving.
Love it.
So
I
good.
love it.
Um, so I know a lot of times when people get like weight loss surgery, there can be kind of a negative stigma that people, will say it's cheating or stuff like that. Did you run into that at all?
I did. I did quite a bit actually. And the sad thing is like I was doing it to better myself. Like when you're sick, you go to the doctor, you get help. And after trying literally every fad diet there is, at one point starving myself, only to gain the weight that I'd lost back and then 100 pounds, it's just, it, it wasn't feasible to keep trying that method. Like it wasn't working for me. So I'd reached out to a doctor, a surgeon in St. Louis, and went through that process and then got approved for my surgery. And it's just, I did it to better myself. And for people to be negative and say that's the way that cheaters do it, I was getting my health back. So I don't feel like there's any way to really cheat about that. And everybody's welcome to their own opinion. If they don't want weight loss surgery, then, guess what? They don't have to have it.
Right.
But it's been working for me and it's been a life changer. And like losing the weight's been great, but regaining my mental health through this whole process has been the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Let's talk a little bit about that. How did this affect mental health and where was that before and how is it now?
So I'd always suffered with depression and anxiety. Um, and especially after I lost my mom, like it just went straight into the tanker. Like it was pretty bad there for a little bit. You just don't have any self-worth. And then on top of all of that, your weight, you get in that cycle of feeling like nothing you do is good enough, but it's not good enough because of your weight. And I know that's a weird way to think of it, but you don't want to go, for example, you don't want to speak up in a meeting because you don't want to draw attention to yourself. Because if you draw attention to yourself, people are going to see, and then they're going to see how big you are, and then they're going to judge you. It's just like a never ending cycle. So losing this weight, like I've gained self-confidence, which I've never had. I was able to found my nonprofit and, just take off with that and be a catalyst for other people's mental health. So we have a little rescue farm. So we take in animals that need homes and all that. But the second part of it, we have people of all abilities, people going through some mental health issues and all that come out to our farm, be with our animals, and hopefully work through some of the mental health issues that they may be going through. So knowing that I've been open about my mental health and my weight loss journey, all that stuff, and having other people see that and know that it's okay. Like it's okay to have a rough mental health day, and there are people out there to help you, and there are ways to, get help and all that. Um, I'm just I'm thankful that I'm on the path that I'm on now because I've not had this clarity in a really, really long time, and it feels really good to finally be healthy.
That's great. I really like hearing that. So you said this was a couple years ago that you lost the weight, right? 2 or 3?
It'll be 4 years
4 years, sorry,
next
yeah.
month.
4 years next month. So a lot of times there's some slight differences between weight loss and maintenance, and a lot of times people have a harder time with the maintenance phase. How have you been able to go about the maintenance successfully and, keep it at it for year after year?
So I know with the weight loss surgery, there a lot of people do gain the weight back within that second and third year, especially. And I'm thankful I'm going into year 4. I'm gonna be honest, I've gained 10 pounds. But I'm not stressed about it. Like I said, I'm 180 pounds, but I'm more capable at this weight in this body than I was when at my lowest weight. Um, it does take a lot because you catch yourself falling back into your old habits a lot, especially with the food. But you just have to be mindful and go back to thinking, okay, why am I doing this? What outcome do I want? And it very quickly puts me back on track. But it's definitely a concern. And I had a great discussion with my surgeon about that. I said, I don't want to be one of the statistics that go through all this and then gain it back because that scares me. And I had a health scare to where I couldn't do my swimming or my biking. And I was so worried that I was going to gain my weight back. So knowing that, that was going to be taken off my plate for a little bit, I just had to be more mindful of how I was fueling my body and what I was putting in it. So it's been an adventure, that's for sure.
Sure. So looking forward, it's it's always good to continue on with some goals and stuff. And it sounds like you do a lot of endurance and ultra endurance type stuff. Let's dive into that a little bit. How is the training for a 24-hour backyard or an Ironman and these things that you're working for? How does that feel?
So um, it was rough. It was rough. So I was geared up to do Ironman, and I thought I was going to die. I'm not going to lie. There was it's just a lot. It's like 6 days a week, and then you get a long bike ride that takes you 6 hours, and it's just I'm not fast at anything, so I mean, like it takes me a long time to do this stuff. Um, but it takes quite a bit. This is my first backyard ultra. I've only done one other ultra last year, and that was like 34 and a half miles. But I've not gone for 24 hours straight yet. So this will be my first one. But like today I have two runs. I did one this morning, and then I'll have one in the evening, and then I have a 4 hour run tomorrow. So I mean I'm logging the miles and getting them in. And the good thing about the endurance thing, it's not about pace. So it's more about how far you can push your body, which is where I like to be. Just to prove to myself that my body's more capable than I thought it could ever be. So I think that's why I've leaned more towards the endurance part of the getting healthy stuff. So I'm anxious to see how it goes. We'll see.
That's amazing. I'm excited. You'll have to keep us all in the loop. So how do you just feel like you're a different person at a certain point? I mean, going
Oh
from,
yeah.
being barely able to make it through a mile to doing 30 plus miles in under a day because you said it wasn't
Yeah.
before. So how is that? Like just seeing the changes in your life.
Every now and then I get just a little bit choked up. Like it's stupid, but I'll be like suffering so bad on this run and hating it. And I'm like, you know what? That 330 pound you that took 28 minutes to do that 1 mile is so proud of you. Um, I never thought I would be this person, like never ever, but uh, I'm super thankful. Like I said, I hit the ground running every morning. I finally feel what it feels like to live, and I love it. I love it so much. So,
That's so awesome. So as we start wrapping up, there's always a couple questions I like to ask people. Looking back, what do you feel like were some of your biggest mistakes?
um, trying to add too much too quick, um, especially with like paces and distance, because I'm an all or nothing type of gal. Like, you tell me to do half marathon, I'm gonna do it, and I have to do it this pace, and
Yeah,
um, so I think I kind of ruined being able to enjoy some of the adventures that I've been on, just because I've been so wrapped up and so competitive with myself. So if I had to do it all again, I would just sit back and enjoy the ride.
makes sense. How, so you're saying just not focusing so much on numbers. Is there anything else that you would do to say to be able to enjoy the process more? Do you think there's other things that you would elaborate on?
Yeah, so one thing that I did do, I'll share that. Here in Murray, Kentucky, we have a local bike group. And I joined that. And then we have a couple ladies that run in the morning, so I joined them. If you have the chance to join any kind of group like that, Not only do I find that it holds you more accountable and you'll show up for those rides and races and all that, it's just really, it makes it fun. Like, who really wants to go out there and run 10 miles? I really don't want to, if I'm being honest. But if I know my friend's going to be there, I'm going to do it and it's going to be so much better. So a lot of people are always like, well, they're so much faster than me. I can't keep up. No, find that person out there because I have a friend, she's super fast, but she slows down and goes with me. We have the best time on our races. So don't be afraid to reach out to others that you may think are just, amazing athletes because you'll be so surprised at how encouraging those people can be towards your adventure.
So the last question I always like to ask is, if you had to give a 10-second elevator pitch to someone who just wanted to know what they should do to start, right? You've lost 150 pounds. You've learned a lot from this process, I'm sure. If you were gonna to tell somebody just one piece of advice that was about to start, what would it be?
Do it. Don't be scared. Just do it. A lot of people hesitate joining the gym. I can guarantee you everybody at that gym will be your biggest cheerleader. Everybody's there for the same purpose. Don't be scared. Just do it. Just just do it.
I really love that. So
Mhm.
I think that's all I had. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we wrap up?
Oh, I think that's it. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, that was wonderful. Your story is amazing, very inspiring. I know it's going to help a lot of the listeners, and so thank you so much for coming on, and we'll end it there.